Hi everyone and welcome back. And in the next set of videos on the nestjs we are going to talk about the testing. So testing can be done in different ways like unit testing, functional testing, integration testing, and then you can also get the coverage of your test cases whatever you have written. So here the testing we are going to use a different set of library like nyc, Istanbul, and the mocha, chai for the assertion, and you can also use jest for running these test cases. So nestjs has a good integration with the jest also. So you can write a unit test, you can write integration test. Unit test is like testing the controllers, testing the services, testing the helper methods you have written, and integration test, or you can call the E2E test, that we are doing to actually test the APIs whatever you have written. So we can actually create a test folder parallel to src. So here is my test folder, and inside test we can do a lot of things. I think I have created it in the wrong place. Let me move it. Okay, we have this test folder. Now inside test we can actually create a folder which is E2E, and we can say one folder mock. Okay, and these two are fine. So all the unit tests like test cases for the services we are going to write in the src, and all the test cases which are E2E where we are going to use a super test to call the actual API. After mocking some services we will make a call to the actual API and we'll check, okay, the status code is coming, the body content is proper. All these are test cases we are going to write. So that we will write here. Currently in the code, if you see, we have one controller. This is a user controller, and API v1 users, post method is there. So we will write few more methods so that we can have the nice understanding about the E2E test cases we are writing. Okay, and we will run this application. So first let's talk about the unit test. Unit test we can write, we already have the setup of writing the unit test. If you go to the package.json, here we have npm run test unit, npm run test E2E. So where are we looking at for the unit test? I mean, we are just providing the env.test. This is the mocha ts node register because we are running the test against the TypeScript files. Okay, and we are looking for this particular spec, I mean this particular pattern inside source folder. For the E2E test we are looking inside a test folder because E2E test we are going to write in the test folder, maybe test E2E folder. And the unit tests we are going to write in parallel to the services, in parallel to the controllers we have already written, right? So you can just simply go ahead and npm run test unit, npm run test E2E, and then finally we have a script also to get the coverage. So you can just do npm run cover, which will just run the unit test, integration test, and it will generate the report. So while generating coverage we always get a lot of trouble. Okay, the coverage is not coming, the HTML report is not coming, it is showing undefined, all those things. I also face those set of issues while generating the coverage of E2E and unit tests combined. So we'll talk about it. We are using nyc for that. Then we will also think about using the jest. Here we are generating the alcov report, and text summary means whenever it's going to put the text summary on the command line. Okay, and also will generate a report in the index.html inside a coverage folder. All these information we are putting. So here if you see the reporter is this, nyc silent, it silently generates the report of E2E and unit test cases. Okay, so we will write some unit test cases. First of all, how to write unit test cases, because nestjs is little bit different, not same as what we were writing in the express unit test and integration test. Integration tests are kind of similar because what we are doing is we are actually hitting the actual API and checking the response back. Okay, so we have this controller, we have our services, and we can write some test cases for that. So here I can write user.service.spec.ts. Okay, so in this test case, now coming to the test cases of the services, what all things we have to take care. because the test cases, particularly unit test cases, we have to mock the actual services. In the user service, we are actually talking to the user repository, which is a typeorm thing. While writing in the unit test cases, you have to mock it, because you can't make a database connections and you get the actual data. That is not possible. We are writing unit test cases here, so we have to mock the services. Even whatever the GWT service or the passport services you are writing, you also will be mocking those set of services. Okay, so let's write the service here. What we will do is we will write the test case for user service, and we already have all the modules which are required, like the nestjs testing. Okay, so I can start writing it. So we will be using this describe it block and all. I mean that is a basic Jasmine syntax. Okay, I'm going to test the user service. And it takes two arguments, right? One is a callback, and inside this I will be defining all the test cases using assertion it. Okay, so I will be just, now we have to create the test bed. Test bed means, because we have the nestjs module we are creating, right? So we have to create the test bed, like whatever the dependency we have in the application. So based on that we will create a test bed. So here what I will do is const module equal to, I mean, before running each and every test case I have to initialize it. So I will say is before each, this is a hook which we can use to do async initialization of our modules. Okay, and after each we can actually also close the application, right? Let's say this is the before each block, and inside this we will get the module. So it's kind of a same syntax you will be writing most of the time. So it is test dot create, and test we can get from nestjs testing. This we already imported, test dot create testing module, and in the create testing module it takes an object. Inside the object you will define all your imports, all your providers, and all these things. If you are not overriding any imports, skip them. I will just adding the providers. Providers means all the services, and we will always be mocking the services, because controllers are nothing but routes. They are going to call the services, and services are the one which will give us the data, right? So I have a user service. So I will try to mock this service, because this service is going to talk to typeorm to give me the data, right? So this is the user service, and here we can actually mock it by providing. So here I will just say provide and the value. So what we are doing is, what we are trying to get is get repository token. Repository token that is required in the test cases, and we are trying to get the user. And use value means what value it will provide. Empty object. I mean, this is how we are doing the mocking, and this we can get from typeorm, and the user entity we are talking, this also we can get from entity. So what this is saying is, okay, there is a user service talking to the typeorm repository. I wanted to mock it, so you will get repository token. A particular service will talk to at least one or two entity, so you can actually do the provide, okay, get repository token user, and use this particular value. And once this is done, you can also put the import statements, like whatever the modules your user service is using, the whole module is using, but that is optional. Here we are talking about testing the service. Okay, after this we can actually use compile. And now, so now here we got the module. Now we need to get the service. So here we'll create the instance of a service. Let user service, and that is a instance of actual user service we have. And now we can get the user service. We have already defined user service. We can get from the created module. Await module dot get. So it's like a container of all the services where you can get a particular service. So here I will say is give me a user service from this. Okay, I got the user service. Now I can do a lot of things with this. You can actually create a describe it block inside this and start testing the user service. User service after mock, and inside it block you can just call a particular method. Testing get by ID method. This method it block can be async, okay, depends on what you are doing is. Now here you will write your assertion, right? So you would need accept and all these expect or the assertion libraries, like you can use a chai which will give you a whole set of different assertion methods. Okay, we can use expect, and here we are doing type of simple type of user service dot. So here get by ID, get by ID, let's say I'm passing 1. So 2 equals expect dot 2 equal, I'm doing something wrong here. So this is a type of this, and this get by ID is taking 1 as a string. So let's pass this as a string. Dot equals, that should be 2 equals method to string. That depends on what assertion library we are using. To not equals, we can also check if it is there. Not equals null, right? One test case we have written. So whenever you are calling get by ID method, it will not come as a null, right? Now you can add another assertions. Testing get by email method, and you will be passing another call. I mean, you will be calling get by email, and you will be passing test@gmail.com. I mean, you can actually also validate what is the response we are going to get. And there is another method we have, which is testing register method, which is method is I think dot register, and it takes what it is taking. It is taking user DTO, so it should be an object we are passing with all the required parameter. Okay, because there is an email I think, and username, email name, and there are 3 arguments. One is a password. Okay, we are passing all. You can create a separate type. I mean, you can create a fixture and you can call this. So as plain and simple test case, unit test case we have written, right? Here first of all we have to initialize the test bed using create testing module, get your particular service from that, and now you start calling your service methods. Now this is a simple example. I'm not saying that these tests will run or not, but this is how we create the testing setup. You get the service, now you keep calling the methods of a service, right? Now we have already mocked these methods, that these are going to just return undefined null from an object, get repository token, right? This is a typeorm method to actually mock the repository service which we are injecting inside the user service. If you see the actual user service here, we are injecting this repository here, user. So we have to mock it if we wanted to test this particular service. And how we are doing it? We are simply get repository token for this entity and value is empty object. Okay, as simple as possible. Now You can also mock other services like you are using auth middleware service, which is checking your token is authorized or not. But while writing the unit test or integration test, you can't validate it because you are talking to the Firebase service or Auth0 service to validate it, but you are writing end-to-end and unit test cases, you can't validate it. So you will be passing some mock token and you will be overriding that service same as like this, right? So here there are other methods, use provider dot override method, I think, override provider. So what you will specify here is a particular service name. Let me come to this override provider dot, then there should be use value. Either you specify it like that or like this. So override provider, here let's say you are using a one particular service. Okay, we can also create a service inside this also. Let's say I'm creating a test dot service dot ts, and I will for now copy some of the method from this class so we can talk about it. So this is a test service I have created, and I will just call this method is say hi, and it is going to return email. I don't have this dependency injection and all in this. It's a simple service we have. Now this service can be your middleware service or something else. This is a test service. Okay, now this test service is being injected in your user service. Okay, and we have only one method, say hi. You don't need to make it a wait. This we are injecting inside user service. So how we will inject? This is the first one, then second one is private read only. So test service we are injecting. We can import the test service. Okay, now test service is another method service we are calling, and there is one method say hi. Say hello, right? And what we are doing is we are calling another service method, this dot, I will do return this dot test service dot some method say hi and passing email, getting it. Simple method. Now to test this particular functionality, we also have to mock this particular service. Maybe there is some complex logic written in this particular service which we are calling test service, right? So we have to inject it inside our user service. So how do we do this? In the spec override provider. Okay, I am trying to override the method definition of a particular method inside a test service, and what I want to do is, I think this will take an object. Let me just see, it will be on an object, and here you have to talk about the method name which you are overriding. So in the test service there is a method say hi, and what you are saying is take the definition of say hi like this. Okay, let me see if something is wrong. This is the function name, and this function, because here what you are providing is say hi is a function and it is just returning an empty string, or you can say the test. So what you did is you actually mock this test service, and it's one and only one method say hi which is being called from this user service and saying okay, it will return test. Now you already know it is going to return test, so you can actually write an assertion that when you are going to call the say hello function, user service dot say hello, and whatever you are passing, that should comes out as equals to test you have written. Alright, just format this We are good. Okay, so this is how you can override provider. It can be any service, Azure provider service, S3, AWS S3 service, because you can't actually call those services. You are mocking them. It can be a auth middleware, and you will just there is a method of authenticate. You will return the test token or test user payload, which you are returning after decoding the authentication token. Okay, so this is how we are doing a mock. So in the next video I will run this test case, and then we will write the end-to-end test case also.